Welcome to another Capitalist Wire. We got a really interesting guest today, Daniel Goodwyn. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We have a situation January 6th of 2020.
2001 or 21.
2021, sorry. And it was Daniel, I don't even know, I'm not even sure how to start this because this blows my mind, the fact that you were arrested and put in solitary confinement. I know that's not what they called it, but the fact that you got arrested at all that day tells me that we've got quite a problem in America. And this whole podcast is kind of hinges on men in America today and our status and how we act and how we carry ourselves. And what you did, I think, is absolutely admirable. So what I want to ask you is some questions. I want to kind of get a kind of a foundation of who you are, and then I want to talk about that day, all right? So your name is Daniel Goodwyn. You're 34 years old, Texas native. Is that right?
Well, I guess it depends how you define Texas. I grew up here.
Okay. And you're a Christian.
Yes.
And the day of, did you drive down there with your friends and family? Who were you with?
So I drove by myself.
Okay. And was it a caravan? I mean, were you meeting people there?
No, I was going to meet some people there right beforehand. Before the rally, we wanted to meet up and have a photo op and prayer time at the Washington Monument. But I didn't show up in time, which is another story, depending on if you want to talk about it.
What was the purpose of your going there?
So I had been doing the Stop the Steal rallies at other state capitals as well. And so, you know, when Trump tweeted out that there was going to be a protest.
Ali's group?
Yeah, he was one of the guys heading it up. So Trump said it was going to be, you know, wild protest, and so we were going to go and support him, support election integrity, support America. And I'd been covering things also kind of as a citizen journalist, so getting video, posting stuff online, social media.
Have you always kind of been an activist?
Since I was like a young adult.
Okay.
Like coming at like towards the end of high school.
Okay. And so you went and got your associate's degree. What did you get your degree in?
Just web and interactive design.
Okay, so you're a computer geek like James.
Yes.
All right. So tell us about that day. You get there. What's the weather like?
It was cold.
Okay, so it's cold. You're in Washington D.C. and you get there about what time?
So I'll just back it up just a little. So I was actually driving from San Francisco, where I'd been living, and I actually got arrested for not wearing a mask at a gas station Taco Bell, and I was in jail for a couple days on the way to January 6th to D.C. And
you got arrested for not wearing a mask?
Yeah, basically.
Where?
They call it
Where?
Trespassing. It was right on the border between Utah and Wyoming in a place called Uinta County. And
That's the last place I would expect you to get in trouble for not wearing a mask.
Well, it's crazy. They said they wouldn't sell me a taco because I wouldn't wear a mask.
So they got you for trespassing?
They basically, yeah, but they dropped those charges. But anyways, I was arrested, and so that's why I was late. So I was driving to get there as quick as I could. Okay. So,
but just so I understand, if you would have left there, they wouldn't have arrested you.
Well, okay, if you want the details, I can go into it. So the guy told me, you know, I'm going to call the cops. I was like, okay, go ahead and call the cops. And he goes, well, you can go wait in the parking lot. So I went and waited in the parking lot.
And then the cops came.
The cops came. You can't tell someone they're trespassing when you told someone they can be there.
Which is why they probably dropped the charges.
Well, there's several reasons probably. The other charge was like obstruction of a police's investigation or something bogus like that, because
interfering with
the guy didn't want me.
Taco production.
The cop was asking me for my driver's license, and I was like, you know, do I have to show you my ID? I wasn't saying I wouldn't do it. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I was like, okay, was it in the code? He's like, yeah, I can show you that. Then the other cop came and got impatient. He just arrested me right away. So it was kind of a big misunderstanding anyways, that I think they just wanted to arrest someone that day.
Yeah. They needed something to do.
Yeah,
Barney Fife got you.
basically.
Okay, so you finally, that was worth a little detour. That's
Yeah, okay, and one other thing. So when I left, I had forgotten to bring my shoes. Like I packed everything else. I was wearing flip-flops. So
I've
I was
totally
like,
done that.
I left after New Year's Eve.
it's totally something James would
I'm
do.
a flip flop guy.
And I was
so,
thinking I'll
yeah.
have plenty of time. I'll just stop at a Walmart, buy some shoes on the way there.
Not going to wear my mask.
But since I got arrested, I didn't have time. So actually on January 6th, winter,
No.
I was wearing flip-flops.
No.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I was wearing flip-flops. It was cold. The grass was a little muddy from being walked in a lot, and it was kind of, wintry and cold. So
No wonder you were upset, man. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I wasn't even really upset.
I'm totally kidding. Yeah.
So, okay, so you get there. About
get
what
there.
time?
Well, it was morning. I think I may have gotten there in time for the Trump speech. I was obviously not there in time for the meet up with my friends for the prayer and photo op. So the rally's over at the Ellipse. And so I got there and I was just walking around. The crowd was massive, just kind of enjoying the vibes, joking around.
Was there a cool vibe?
Very positive, very friendly. And yeah, it's like
Did you see anybody trying to incite violence or talking about
the rally,
breaking
no.
in or
at the rally, no. Then you go over
did
to
you
the
see
Capitol.
anybody breaking anything, rioting?
Well, so here's the thing. By the time I actually got to the Capitol, I entered the building at 3:30.
No, I'm talking before that. Like,
Yeah, no, there was nothing like that. But I'm just wanting to say, even by the time I got to the Capitol, there was no
just
violence.
for the record, a couple of weeks before the BLM rally, that's
Right.
a significant difference in the details there. But go ahead.
Was there anybody carrying an open carry?
I think there was like 3.
Okay. And that was just kind of like overdone.
One of them was a DEA agent. That he's gone on Tucker to talk about that. One of them was Guy Reffitt.
That's gonna be
I'm
another
not
one of
convinced that he even had his gun. They only have a picture of his holster, but in court they did convict him of that, so I'm not sure. And then Chris Alberts, which I don't think he actually got a gun charge.
Can you
for
open
having
carry
it.
in DC?
I mean, I believe in the Second Amendment. I'll just leave it at that.
Throw that out there. Okay.
I mean,
All right.
typically, if
I
somebody's
didn't have a gun.
if
for the
somebody's
record.
open carrying,
I don't even own one.
in a protest, and if it's illegal, the cops are going to grab the gun or grab the guy.
Yeah, there also was a cop who had a gun that the cops came and like frisked him, but then he showed them his like ID and everything, and they let him go. So there was
Well,
there were a few incidents like that, but for the and I should say I got diagnosed with autism last year, so sometimes I'll be very granular with the details when you ask a general question. I think what you're getting at is nobody came with guns to start an insurrection, obviously.
no,
And you would think if you're going to overthrow the Capitol,
Exactly.
like if that was your plan, you would not do it with flagpoles and
You absolutely
umbrellas.
would not, and that's the point. No one was planning to do that.
I'll tell you, I think Republicans occasionally overdo it by showing up with an AR strapped to the front of their chest. Dude, you're not going to make your point any better by pissing everybody off that you've got a firearm.
They do, and
I'm
it's
a big-
amazing
I'm a
how
big
much
time-
restraint there was because that day nobody had
Yeah,
guns showing.
I'm a big time Second Amendment guy, as you know, but like, it's like that's not the point. I mean,
Right.
what are you going to do with one? You got one trigger finger. I mean, what are you going to do? Like take down
well,
the militia?
you're
Take
just,
down the military?
You're
I mean,
going too far.
Yeah,
You're blowing your credibility.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so you get there, you miss the speech because you're running late.
Well, I didn't miss the speech.
Oh, you got.
I missed the photo op and prayer time beforehand.
Okay, gotcha. So you did get to hear the speech, which was
I got
cool.
to hear at least a good chunk of it.
That
yeah.
was a freaking cool vibe, I bet.
and did,
Sort of. I had been to some Trump rallies before, so I think a lot of the people in the crowd were feeling similar to me in that we were like, yeah, you've already said all these things. Like, we're here to see the election fraud proof. Like, show us that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was actually a little disappointing, but there was still great energy with the crowd, like there is generally
and
at
did
Trump
he
rallies.
seem like he was, sending you guys off to go overtake the government? Or?
He did say, we're going to go over to the Capitol building, and he said, to peacefully and patriotically make our voices heard. So that's about as much of a direction from Trump that anyone had. I don't even know where I was at the point when he said that. So I don't know if I even heard that part until afterwards.
How far was it from the speech that you heard to the Capitol?
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have
That's a
to.
long
You
walk.
could
Like
just
a
look
5-minute walk?
No, it's maybe more like 20 minutes. It depends on how fast you're walking.
Okay, you're in
You could check it
flip-flops.
on Google Maps. Yeah.
I want to say it's like a mile.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's at
cold.
least a mile. It might be
Yeah.
a couple miles.
the whole crowd is walking
There was like 1 million people.
from the speech site to the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Was anyone talking about what we're going to do when we get there?
One person named Ray Epps said we need to go in the building.
Did you see him though?
I didn't see him.
Okay. But what
That
about
was
your,
much earlier
but,
than I
But
was
what about
there.
your testimony? Like,
Yeah,
did
so-
you see anybody say
No,
that?
absolutely not. No, nobody even had that on their mind.
Okay, so we're not going down there to raid the Capitol.
No, what I had in my mind is the organizer had put on their website, we're going to Lot 8, which is on the east side of the building. So I figured, you follow the crowd, you got probably police directing traffic, and they're going to the permitted event. So that's kind of what I had in my mind.
Yeah.
that
So you're going to it was a permitted event.
Yeah.
Which there was a lot of records of Trump saying that he thought that there might be some issues. He wanted to call in the National Guard. He
That's
talked
right.
to Nancy Pelosi about that.
Nancy
She turned it
Pelosi
down.
and Muriel Bowser, the Democrat DC mayor, both turned it down.
Yeah.
And they basically have to give permission. So like the president can offer the National Guard, but they're the ones who have to say, okay, sure, we can have National Guard come in. So the security was light on purpose, I think. And that's where I feel like it was a setup, because now this was all before I got there, but there was a flimsy little bike rack gate, and there was 5 cops at it with 1 million people behind it. So the protesters get there, they're thinking we want to go and be close because maybe Trump's going to be speaking right at the front there. He says, I'm going over there. So, they want to get closer. So they just take the gates down. One policewoman gets knocked over and immediately gets helped up by the guy who was pushing the fence. So it was very uneventful in that sense, but it was like they had low security on purpose because they wanted people to go there so that they could then say, you're trespassing.
Okay. So you finally get there after this 20-minute jaunt with all these people. Is it crowded? Is it like, are you all kind of together? Is it almost that scary feeling when you've got that many people and you know that you can stop if you wanted to?
Well, actually, I took some footage on my phone and I have published it so you can review that and you can actually see the crowds. I would say in one sense it's like shoulder to shoulder as far as the eye can see, Constitution and Pennsylvania Avenue. There were so many people. That's why I keep saying 1 million people. Like some people say more than like multiple millions. I mean, I've never seen that many people in my life.
Really?
Yeah, but it wasn't to the point, walking down the road to where you felt like you were being pushed and shoved. It was where everyone was kind of peacefully walking like a march.
One of the issues that I've had with this entire thing is the president calls for people to show up to patriotically make their voices heard, and there's people as far as the eye can see. His opponent can't get 100 people to show up at his rallies.
Exactly.
And he claims to have gotten more votes than Obama.
More votes than anyone in history.
In the history of our country.
It's obviously wrong.
Obviously wrong. And you sound like a kook when you say that. They try to make you sound like a kook when you say that. But I've maintained, like as have you, as has James, all along, that something doesn't smell right with this whole election. And so we get to the Capitol, and they've walked through this little flimsy fence. Are you in the middle of that crowd? Are you behind that crowd? Were you one of the guys that moved the fence? Where were you in that deal?
Yeah, so that happened early in the morning. I got there at 3 p.m. I didn't even know any of that had happened. I didn't see any violence. I didn't know of any violence. I didn't see anyone moving fences. The fences themselves weren't even there.
Okay.
So I couldn't have known that was a restricted area.
Okay.
So no interactions with cops, with you?
Not at that point, no. Not till I got to inside the building.
Was there an energy with the cops that were patrolling the area that were security? Was there a feeling?
So by the time I really ran into police, there was like basically an army of police standing next to the building, And it's like if you go to the mall and you see the security guards standing around like they have nothing to do, like that, but imagine they're all standing next to each other.
How many would you say?
Well, I don't know, you can review the
10,
video and
50?
see what you think. Maybe 50, 70. I'm not great with that kind of thing.
Minimum of a couple 100,000 people, like 300,000 or 400,000 is what like MSNBC.
Oh, I'm talking about just right next to that wall. Yeah, there were much more police in general.
Okay. And so,
but none of them were there at the beginning. There were literally 5. I'm not saying that as a figure.
No, I'm just making
it's on
a point
video.
that
The fence there were 5.
That they knew there was hundreds of thousands of people, if not a million people walking, and they had like a couple hundred cops. I mean, that doesn't doesn't sound like any.
So you get to the Capitol itself, and what was it that caused you to enter the Capitol building?
So really nothing. I was just kind of wandering around. The door was open and people were meandering in and out. And I say that deliberately. They weren't pushing and shoving. I wouldn't even say walking. They were meandering,
And
like wandering
were
around.
cops around there?
Yeah, that's where the one I was talking about, where there was like an army of police.
Like checking it out.
Yeah.
So there were cops there seeing you guys walk in and out.
Yeah.
And
they weren't trying to stop anybody.
Yeah.
So you get inside. Walk us through the next few minutes.
There was none. There was less than a minute. I walk inside. There's like police lining up like this. I kind of go towards the middle of the hallway to kind of have a little bit of breathing room and look around, and then I see a cop telling me to leave. So then I start walking out, and I see my friend who's a live streaming. He calls out to me. I go talk to him, and he said, hey, SF Thought Criminal. That was my handle when I did activism for free speech. And I was like,
Thought Criminal?
Yeah, Thought Criminal, SF for San Francisco, SF Thought Criminal. So I said, hey, stop doxing me. My name is Daniel Goodwyn, which people think, what an idiot. He says his name when he says not doxing me. But the point is, he's showing my face while he's saying my alt. So he's revealing who I am in that way. Mm-hmm. But I was joking. I had already been doxed by Antifa a month or 2 earlier, or 3. And so I was just playing around. But anyways, then the cop's telling me to leave. So I go, get this guy's badge number. He's an oath breaker, and then walked out the door. So that was the whole time in there.
So what I've seen that video. It was on Tucker Carlson when he was on Tucker, and it looked like you were in there for like 16 seconds or something like that.
It was probably between 30 and 40 seconds.
Okay, but Tucker literally had
depending on how you reckon the threshold there.
Yeah, so it wasn't a minute. I remember the countdown
definitely
was
under
like
a minute.
Yeah, and then so one question I have is like when you walk in, somehow the cop there's literally a cop standing there at the door, and there's just like people walking in and out. And he's just, it literally looks like he's just like making sure no one's
like a security guard.
Yeah, he looked
Tiffany's.
like you would have never known he was a cop, or if he was a security guard. He's just standing there. He had a suit on, like he was in uniform, but you didn't know what was going on. And then so a question I have is when you walked in wearing that red hat, why did he pick you out?
I did ask for his badge number, but I've never gotten it. I don't know his name. I don't know anything about him or his motivations.
But did you walk in
and he didn't tell me why.
Did you walk in and address him?
To this day, I'm very curious. No, I have no idea why he singled me out. It was very weird. It couldn't have been my MAGA hat. Like every other person there had a MAGA hat. So
were you being rude to him?
Wasn't being rude. I wasn't talking
to him.
Bro,
it was the weirdest thing. It was like he was there.
You can watch the video.
Somebody radioed and said, that guy with the red hat, go get him. And he cuts through the crowd.
But you can hear the audio in the live stream. No one radioed. So
it was the weirdest thing.
It's pretty weird.
I don't understand why they...
Okay, well, so they approach you, and tell us how that went down.
Well, he told me to leave, basically. He just said, out, and pointed.
What'd you do?
I left. Well, I delayed for a second. Like I said, I talked to my live streamer friend, and then I left.
But all that was within 30-something seconds.
Yeah.
At what point did you get arrested?
So they actually tracked me down later. They didn't arrest me on January 6th. They arrested me in January later that month.
Okay.
So when I say my house, I was going back to San Francisco. I stopped in Texas with where my family was.
Wait, so hold on. Before we go, I want to just finish up. So you left the Capitol, and then you went outside, right? And did you do anything? Did you get in any fights? Did you push any cops? Did you do anything? What did you do out there?
The only other thing that I did that day is that I was talking on the megaphone, telling people the doors are open. you know, there's open spots. People come advance, especially the men come to the front, and the doors open, go inside. So I was saying all this, yelling it through a megaphone. I didn't bring the megaphone. Someone handed it to me. Some stranger that I don't even know. Yeah. So I was just, you know, kind of going with the vibe that day and just being like, you know, we're here to get our voices heard. This is the place to go. Let's go over there.
And to your knowledge, or I mean, did you know the doors had been apparently broken open or something? Or
not at the time. No, I had no idea.
Yeah. So I mean, I saw the footage of you on the megaphone. I mean, it seemed like, yeah, like you were clearly saying, guys, we can go in, like, let's go in. But, you know, it didn't seem like you were doing anything illegal because the doors were open and there was a cop standing right there letting people in.
Was the judge
a bunch of cops
pissed off at you for not saying I was on a megaphone telling people to come inside on Tucker?
That's right.
Did he actually mention that?
He did, yeah. He went into depth about it. We actually had 2 days for the sentencing.
2 days?
2 days, so he could have his whole spiel, and he had to think about it overnight. And
he was grandstanding. Okay, so the judge has you charged with, you're in his court charged with what?
Well, I was charged with 5 things, but when I was in the court for sentencing, it was down to the 1.
So when you were on the megaphone, what made you grab the megaphone? Did somebody offer to you? Did you see it? Did you walk up? You know, like, we don't really hear those details, right? We just see on the video. But like, how did you get the megaphone? Did somebody offer it to you? And then what were you thinking?
Yeah, so it's kind of like I said, I was just going with the vibe. You can see the whole video. And I don't know if you guys are going to splice it in or anything, but that could be cool.
Sure, we can put it in.
At one point I was saying, does anyone have a megaphone? I got the megaphone from just some stranger. And I was seeing a lot of empty space after having been in a lot of shoulder to shoulder. And I was thinking, let's get this crowd moving up so that people can space out. And also, for trying to get our voices heard, we're probably going to be more effective the closer we are, since if that's where we're allowed to be, which apparently I thought we were.
So they're making
I don't know if I would go that far, but yeah, they kind of did, I think, try to do that a little.
If you had this whole day to do over again, what, if anything, would you change?
I don't know. I mean, how much
would you do?
Like, I have full knowledge, foreknowledge that I have now.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have warned everyone. I would have gotten it up to Donald Trump that it's going to be a psyop and told him to tell everyone not to go. I mean, obviously, because they've used this against us to arrest a bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean, people will probably watch this and they may show up to a rally, or they may. I mean, it sounds like you were emotional in the moment. I mean, dude, the Capitol is wide open. It seems like you just walk in, like you're making a statement. It's like, man, it seems exciting.
It wasn't even that emotional either. I was just kind of going with the vibe, like, this is what we're doing, all right, you know, I'll step up. No one else is really stepping up. And so in hindsight, some of those people who were milling around in that area, people were walking in and out the door. So some of those people may have just had police tell them to leave, and maybe they're realizing we're not supposed to go in. So when I'm going and telling everyone the door's open, let's go inside, they're thinking, no, we're not actually allowed in there. They didn't say that to me.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, why is no one listening to me? Well, that's probably why. And even more than that, some of the people had been there for a while. They probably actually saw people getting in scuffles with police. I didn't see any of that.
Is the Capitol not our building? I mean, how can they tell us not to go in our own Capitol? I mean, I don't understand the trespassing issue.
The weird thing to me is, like, it's also one of our most heavily guarded buildings. Like, you would put it up there with the Pentagon, the White House, and those kind of things. But it's like, if the doors are wide open and there's a protest, you would assume that they are letting people walk in. If not, you would assume there's like...
They could, dude, don't tell me that Nancy Pelosi could not have had the National Guard down there and kept everybody out. Look, you're not allowed in the Capitol. You can't go in there. You wouldn't have, dude.
They also have loudspeakers they could have used. And the National Guard did eventually show up, and when they showed up, they cleared the place in like 7 minutes. So they could have done that at any point.
I don't know you that well yet. but I'm telling you, you would not have charged the Capitol if they told you not to. Of
course.
I can tell that about your personality. You're not that guy.
There's no city in America that has more military surveillance, more military backup. Military will pop out of the daggum sewers. I mean, I was a part of an IT project called NS 2020 about tracking surveillance on all these Washington, all this stuff going on in DC with the FBI and all this stuff. But I mean, dude, they have monitors and microphones. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this, but you can look up this contract. It's public because that's how we found it. But they have monitors on all the manhole covers, on anything with power, street lamps.
You can't.
Dude, DC is the most bugged place.
You can't with
It's
a straight
insane.
face say that they couldn't have stopped this.
There
if
is
they wanted to.
I mean, if they wanted 10,000 military to show up within 20 minutes, they would show up in helicopters.
Go ahead.
You're absolutely right about that, but it's even a lot more than that because they actually had informants from the FBI embedded into multiple of the groups, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the Three Percenters, etc. And they had a lot of those people on the ground. They had undercover Metro Police, undercover Capitol Police, plain clothes. They had FBI, ATF, everything you can think of, even the BOP. They were all there, some undercover, some in uniform.
Sure.
And
did you see any of those guys or meet any of them?
How would I know? There's a million people. I interacted with a ton of people.
So honest question, like how do you know that? Just asking. So
yeah, there's all
knows.
these articles. So you can go to stophate.com/J6 and click on secret agents. We got a list of articles there. You can see all the proof. We know some of their names. Like this isn't speculation of any kind. I myself have actually seen a lot of footage too. But other than that, there's documents from beforehand about the foreknowledge of all the intelligence agencies that were collaborating with the Capitol and Metro Police, and they had like a kind of a task force set up. So all that stuff is public.
So in the last month as well, there has actually been hearings in front of the Senate where the FBI and other agency leaders have been asked this from Jim Jordan and a lot of these guys who are starting these committees.
I love watching those guys get raped.
Yeah. And the bottom line is,
over the coals.
they will not, the FBI and the CIA will not address if they had informants.
The FBI is bought and paid for right now.
It's already come out in court. It's totally...
And everybody's like, dude, if you didn't, you would obviously say you didn't.
Okay, all right, so...
Yeah, it's not even in question, actually.
You didn't get arrested, and you didn't give your personal information to anyone.
Yeah, they tracked me down.
How did they find you?
Well, for example, that live stream I was on, I said my name. So I wasn't hiding. I didn't think I had done anything wrong.
So they must have watched YouTube to find out who you are?
It was on D Live, but it's basically like YouTube, yeah. And my name and face and everything had been out there. They were tracking my phone. They were tracking my texts. They got, all my GPS. They got my Twitter. They got my Facebook, all that stuff. They track it all. And all that stuff's in my discovery. So
bro, when you leave DC, right, you leave that incident, like you did the megaphone, you did all that stuff. Did you just like assimilate out of there and just
went to my hotel,
hang out, and then so you're just driving home and you're just thinking, wow, what an experience, or
basically
that was fun.
Yeah,
what a ride.
Yeah, and I went to visit my family on the way to DC from San Francisco in Texas, and then so I just went and did the same thing on the way back.
But you weren't like running from the cops, or no one was trying to find you, or
no. By the time I was visiting with my family for a while, they had put out the
APB,
the complaint or whatever, the criminal complaint, and I started getting calls from journalists about that they're going to come and arrest me. I had no idea what was going on. Yeah.
So how long was this? So January 6th, and then how long about until you started getting phone calls?
Yeah, actually, I'm not very good at answering about questions. I'm very specific, and I have it written down, so I'll just pull it up.
Yeah. The autism probably makes you like extraordinarily detail-minded, right?
Yes. Okay, so January 15 is when that complaint was, and the FBI began tracking my iPhone on the 22nd,
How do you know that?
It's in the Discovery or whatever. Okay. And I was arrested on the 29th.
Okay. Tell us about the arrest.
So they come into they come into the house like a Roger Stone style pre-dawn raid, counterterrorism task force led by the FBI, including municipal police there in the city of Corinth.
Where are you at?
City of Corinth.
Whose house?
Corinth, Denton County. I'm there at my parents' house.
This happened in Denton. What?
So you're just visiting your parents?
Just visiting my parents on the way back to San Francisco.
Hello?
Pre-dawn, they come with a medieval-style battering ram, banging on the door, screaming out to open up.
What time?
Pre-dawn.
What's pre-dawn?
3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
Before the sun is shining. So we're sleeping.
Just be clear, because not everyone knows. Not everyone knows these terms.
Okay,
so everyone was sleeping, if that gives you an idea.
Yeah.
And then we're waking up to hearing. We're waking up to hearing yelling and banging on the door. We go out. They tell us, walk out backwards, get on your knees. They're pointing guns and lasers at us. They handcuffed everyone there in the house except for my mom because she was the last one who came out. None of them were even there. None of them had anything to do with this.
So honest questions. Like, at your parents' house, have they ever been extremists or anti-American or terrorists?
Of course not.
They had a flag.
Are they carrying all kinds of weapons and artillery and starting a militia?
Did they find your mom's grenade stash in the pantry?
No grenades.
I mean, have they ever been tied to al-Qaeda or?
Okay.
So you're
normal.
So you guys are American Caucasian in Denton, Texas.
Was it Denton police
Denton
that were
County.
telling you to back up with your hands up?
No, that was the FBI. The police were there too, though. They were as a team. They call it a counterterrorism task force. So what they do is they get people from multiple.
Okay, so I'm sure this was probably a big training.
So can you imagine these guys are in their cars looking at this, going, "Dude, we're about to raid like an old man, an old lady, this kid."
Dude, I know.
Who's probably has like his most dangerous weapon is like his pencil.
I know a lot of Denton cops, and I guarantee you they hated this. I guarantee you. I guarantee you they hated this. And the FBI was the ones that forced this whole thing, right?
Well, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, the sheriff should be kind of interceding on the behalf of the citizens, but I don't know if the sheriff was involved or not. I never got a document showing.
The sheriff can't stop the FBI from raiding, right?
No, the sheriff doesn't have jurisdiction to stop the FBI.
Of course they do.
But they're in his
they
territory.
Absolutely have that jurisdiction.
The sheriff can?
They have to come and ask the sheriff before they can come in. That's not their jurisdiction for the FBI to just come in and kidnap
But can the
people.
sheriff say no? I thought the...
Anyways, let's move on. So they didn't bring they didn't show us the warrant. We asked them for the warrant, and they wouldn't show it until the end of the whole thing. They went and searched everything. And even before that, we had asked for them to, my lawyer was with the FBI, because they called me. And I didn't talk to them except for to say you can talk to my lawyer. But my lawyer had actually arranged for me to go in and self-surrender. Yet they do this raid before I had a chance to do it. We were going to do it soon after. I think the reason they did that was so that they could confiscate all my devices.
They wanted your cell phone, your computer.
Yep.
Did they ever give it back?
Not yet. I'm sure I'll get it after my sentence.
Did they find anything on there?
Oh yeah, they got it all.
But did they find any?
Oh,
any
they
pictures?
found all of his.
But I'm saying, did they find anything illegal or incriminating or anti-American on your phone?
I mean, they found the video showing that I was there on January 6th.
Evidence that you showed
having
up.
A crowd of people saying things like USA probably.
Yeah. I mean, just for the record, like, we may or may not be 100% like we'll do all this, but it's not illegal.
No.
Being an activist is not illegal. Like, you can be an activist in the left or right.
Dude,
this is not illegal.
Our founding fathers encouraged activism. Yeah. They wanted you to stand up to an oppressive government. They wanted you to do what Daniel did. They said, don't let the government get out of control. Don't do it. That's why we left England. So let's not let that happen again. We need bastards like Daniel who will get out there and say something and piss off the powers that be, even if you have to go to jail. And I love it. I really appreciate what you did. And I know you didn't do it as a favor to me, but dude, the fact that people are standing up and going to jail and getting a megaphone and doing that kind of thing because our government is out of control. It is out of control. They're cheating on the elections. They're doing whatever they want. They're playing fast and loose with the DOJ. I can't even believe this is happening. And the fact that you get arrested, so they take you to where did you, was your first stop Denton County Jail?
No, they were trying to put a mask on me and I didn't want to wear a mask. So they were like calling around to see where they could put me. They put me in Fannin County.
Because you wouldn't wear a mask?
That's right.
Attaboy. So Fannin County is pretty far. I mean,
yeah, I don't know, a couple counties over maybe.
45-minute car ride. So you go to Fannin.
Hey, so I have a question on this whole thing. Why do you think they? I mean, so you're not a terrorist, right? You're not plotting with other countries to take over America or overthrow the government, are you?
Of course not.
Okay, so I mean, I just want to get it on the record. Like, you're not doing that. We haven't coerced you or told you to say any of this, right?
No.
So why do you think they did this? And they did this to other people too from January 6th? Why would they do
so
this?
there's about 1,000 people they've arrested, and most of them, they just walked somewhere they were supposedly not supposed to walk, which they found out about afterwards. They're going to do another 2,000. That's what they've said.
Additional
to the
people
1,000. So that'd be 3,000.
But why do you think they did this to you?
Well, I think that they're just doing it to kind of arbitrarily, but kind of to everyone.
Intimidate.
But they don't like that I have friends that are Proud Boys, for example. And I had made a joke on the internet where I said, something that was like supportive of the Proud Boys or something. And so they decided that they could construe that as me being a self-proclaimed Proud Boy, which I'm not. And so what they wanted to do is they actually did this. They wanted to make a narrative to where something ties people going into the Capitol with the Proud Boys with Donald Trump. Because a lot of this really is they want to go after Donald Trump. So they used that joke I made where I said, awaiting orders from our commander-in-chief, and I showed a Proud Boy meme. And they said, see, he went in there, he's a Proud Boy, he's taking orders from Trump, so it's, Trump did an insurrection. But no one actually has been charged with insurrection.
So you're not truly a Proud Boy.
Not a Proud Boy.
And you were in the Capitol for 30-something seconds.
Yeah.
There's nothing illegal about being a Proud Boy either.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, some of these Proud Boys got convicted of seditious conspiracy that are my friends. They are not guilty of that. That was a sham trial.
I know two Proud Boys, and they're the most patriotic people. I mean, they're willing to take a stand in an uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. They're going to take a stand. Period. For the First Amendment, Second Amendment, primarily, but they're just not. They're done. They're done, and I think you're done. So you get arrested. They take you to Fannin County. They put you in general population.
No, so what they were doing is during the lockdowns is they were just saying like, oh, anyone might have COVID, so what we're going to do is we're going to put you in quarantine for a couple weeks at the beginning and the end, which means the whole time. So I was there for 21 days. I was actually there a couple of days longer than the judge said I could leave, and they didn't let me leave yet because they wanted to put an ankle monitor on me, and the guy didn't want to come into work because the streets were icy. I don't know if you remember back then in February 2021 in Texas, there was a, whatever y'all called that, ice apocalypse or something.
Texas drivers don't do real well with ice. I'll admit that.
Yeah, so then I got to rot in jail for a couple extra days because the officer didn't want to come.
So you went to, so you get this FBI raid like 20, 30 days later.
Roll you out of bed.
You go from there to a jail, right? You go into holding and then you get put in the jail. And what are you thinking?
I'm thinking our country just got a communist takeover. I may never be free again. I may be stuck in here for the rest of my life. I had no idea. I couldn't get in contact with my family, with my lawyer. I basically had no rights in there.
Who got your lawyer? Your family?
Well, I just kind of went through the grapevine and tried to figure out which lawyer I should hire.
Did you find a good one?
Eventually, yes.
So you get representation. You get 21 days. How did that sentencing, how did that happen? How did you end up in there that long? And how did you end up, I guess, was it because of COVID, they said?
Were you charged or
yeah, so
how
I was
did they
charged.
detain you?
I was charged with the 5 charges. One was felony obstruction of an official proceeding, 1512, and then the 4 misdemeanors, which are basically all the same thing, just basically a trespassing. So they offered me a plea deal to plead to that felony charge, which is 20-year max, and I told them no.
When did they offer you that?
What date?
Were you in jail already?
No.
So before you went into jail?
Yeah, actually, when I was in jail, I didn't even have that charge. They added it later. They added it while I was in jail.
So when did they offer you a plea deal before you actually were put in the jail?
No, it was after.
After. Okay, so
Yeah.
you had already been in for 21 days and they offer you the plea deal.
They offered me the plea deal, I don't know, a year or 2 into it, like a long time later.
Oh, okay, so you had been released.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're talking about my charges, so I was getting into the fact that I had 5 charges. That 20-year felony they tried to get me to plead to, I didn't. Then I ended up pleading to one of the misdemeanors.
Okay, but no, you weren't charged with insurrection or anything.
Nobody's been charged with insurrection. Yeah. Some Proud Boys and Oath Keepers have been charged with sedition, and you know, when people are charged together, it's also conspiracy. So you could say seditious conspiracy. But you yourself
haven't been charged with any terrorist activity or anything like that?
No, but it was a terrorism task force. So in some sense, they designated me as a terrorist. As far as I know, I might be on one of those lists where if you go to the airport, they frisk you extra, might not get on the plane in time. Yeah. So I think I am considered a terrorist by them in some ways, but I didn't get a terrorist sentencing enhancement.
Wow. So when you're in jail and these guys are like, these jailers are moving you around and feeding you and doing all this stuff, I mean, I know a little bit how this works. They can look up your charges. Like they can look up, because if they need to know, like, how dangerous is this guy? Is this guy a murderer? They can easily go look that stuff up. So they know, like, why you're there. Did anyone say anything to you?
I don't think so. I don't really remember.
Did anyone say, like, thank you for your service, or thank you for no? How do you feel like you were treated in general? Do you feel like you were treated like everyone else, or do you feel like you were treated more harshly, or was it just about the same?
I don't know if I was probably treated the same as other prisoners, but I was treated probably better than the DC Gulag, where the other J6ers have been very badly mistreated. I was not treated well. It was horrible food, and you know, obviously, like I said, I had the uncertainty. I didn't know if I was ever going to leave. I wasn't able to contact people at the beginning. You know, I had to beg to get a Bible.
How long did it take until you could use the phone?
Well, that's the other thing. I didn't have a pen or paper. I couldn't like write things down, keep records, or remember even how long things were. So it was kind of very weird. Eventually, I did. Yeah, eventually I got a little pen and paper, but at the beginning I didn't. Wow. And I couldn't. Yeah.
So it took days for you to make a phone call, or?
Oh yeah.
And do you think did your parents know where you were?
Well, yeah, my parents were there when I got arrested because they were there at the raid.
They freaking figured it out, I guarantee you.
But did they know you were going to the jail?
Yeah, I mean, they were in contact with my lawyer and stuff.
Okay.
That's good. Thank God. So you did 21 days, and now you still have to finish the 60-day sentence.
Yeah, so 39 more.
And bro, you did a hard 21 days. Like you were in what they call the hole. You were in isolation.
That's people lose it.
I think they call it like medical segregation or something because they don't want to call it solitary, but that is what it is. It's not any different than the shoe or the hole.
Did your door have bars, or was it like a metal door?
Man, I don't even want to think about it. It's like kind of traumatizing. No, it was like a metal door. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was two different cells I was in, one for the beginning part.
So no windows.
There may have been one window for part of it. I don't even remember. Okay. The first one, no, there wasn't a window in the first one.
And how often could you go out to rec?
Either. Never.
The whole time?
Not once, the whole time.
For 21 days?
That's right.
That is
hardcore.
You know what? That's a lawsuit.
I want to say the Texas law is once a week minimum. 1 hour a week minimum is the Texas
Well, they get
law.
around it all by saying, oh, there's a pandemic emergency, so we have to quarantine, and so the rule of law doesn't exist anymore.
They can, it's it's almost like they get to use their own judgment in situations.
It's kind of like martial law.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And so the odds of a lawsuit not getting thrown out on a summary judgment are almost zero. But you still did it, and you still got 31 more days to do. But is there any chance they're going to give you good behavior or give you?
It's hard to say
status?
because it's a very short amount of time compared to other people. So even if I were able to get into some program or something in there, by the time they're going and putting in the calculations, I'm already going to be out. So
you're looking at 20 years, so I guess you got a significantly better deal.
Bro, how did you make it 21 days in solitary confinement?
Well, I didn't really have a choice. I was just kind of sitting there.
But what did you do? What did you think? What were you going through?
Well, by the time I got a Bible, I decided to just read the Bible. But at the beginning, I didn't have one, so.
Did you have anything to read?
No, I was just sitting there.
Sat there all day.
21 days.
Yeah,
I get pissed off when I'm in the Target parking lot and my wife takes 30 minutes.
Yeah, and it's weird because the sleep schedule is very weird.
Yeah.
You can't miss a meal because if you do, you don't get something till the next one. So even though the food's awful, they like wake you up at way too early to have breakfast, and then you have to stay up way too late to have dinner. So you don't get enough sleep.
Any coffee?
No.
Were you able to order the commissary thing from their store?
No, I wasn't really in there long enough to do that. I used commissary to get Long Johns for like towards the end of it.
Because you're
it was
freezing your
so
nuts
cold.
off?
And I had no idea what size to order. So what I just like, I'm better too big than too small. At least I can wear it. So I was wearing stuff that was way too big for me.
Was it super cold?
Yeah, it was super cold.
I just can't believe that happened to you.
I think they put it too cold on purpose so that people have to use the commissary to buy Long Johns because it's like a racket. The whole thing.
I mean, they claim that it kills germs or some BS. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it's not. It's
they keep it
miserable.
colder than comfortable. Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, I guess what James is asking and what I'm curious about is if I'm sitting there in a room by myself with four walls, are you thinking about things? Are you meditating? I would be meditating almost the whole time because I can do that and it's like 4 hours can go by in a blink. But even then, you still got 20 more hours of your day. That sounds like crazy. I know you probably don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I read a big chunk of the Bible. That's what I'm going to be doing when I go back in. So
good. Well, so when they came to get you out, what's the incarceration? Is that a federal unit that you were at? A private
it was
jail?
private, yeah.
So were they treating you like a dirtbag? I mean, what was the way they were, the vibe?
I would say it was below average, treatment.
The jailers have little man syndrome. Those guys, doesn't matter how big they are, they're all just, I'm
especially out in the country, they're the worst.
Yeah.
Those guys are the worst. I mean, they live in little teeny towns. No offense, guys, if you're watching, but they live in little teeny towns. They probably have no one who listens to them. Their dog, their cat probably doesn't even listen to them. They go to jail. They go into the jail, and they have full autonomy over saying anything to anyone. Nothing's on the record. It's always like, "What you gonna go against me and my buddy here?" Like, well, my buddy's a witness. Were there cameras in the jail? Were there cameras?
Probably, yeah, I think so.
Were those guys wearing body cams?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Did you have cameras in your cell?
I think there was one in my cell, at least in the first room. I don't remember the second one. Cell.
So, when you go back, do you anticipate general population? I mean, hopefully you can get a general population.
Well, I mean, lockdowns are basically over. Joe Biden's already signed a bipartisan bill saying there's no more emergency. So you kind of hope those policies are going to be expired by then, but it's hard to say.
What are you going to do next? Are you going to write a book about this, or what? Do you have any plans for?
I might. A lot of people. That's the first thing they're saying. And to me, I'm thinking there's 1,000, going to be 2,000 more. So 3,000 of us are going to write a book. Are people going to read 3,000 books? Probably not. So maybe like the top 10 or 15 people should be writing books. I don't know if I'm one of them or not. So we'll see.
Well, you're on Tucker. That's pretty...
Well, I'll go on the record and say if we want to write a book, I can figure out using my company. We're writing a book for Coach Carter right now.
He's actually been approached more than once for people to write books for him. He understands...
we're writing a huge book for Coach Carter right now.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool.
Well, if we're talking about a book, I gotta plug. My mom worked with another guy to make the American Gulag Chronicles: Letters from Prison, and people can buy that at AmericanGulagChronicles.com, and it's what it sounds like. These are letters from the people who are in prison from January 6th that they wrote out to other people who are writing them letters, and the money raised from buying that book goes to support January 6th for things like legal fees or whatever needs they have.
Good for them. That's cool. What's that website?
AmericanGulagChronicles.com.
We'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
And then also along those lines, the reason even that's a thing is because my mom has been helping with something called the Patriot Mail Project. So patriotmailproject.com, you can go there, you can go find the list, you can filter by your state or whatever criteria you want and find the inmate numbers and the jails for all the other J6ers, and you can yourself write them letters. And it really means a lot to these people to have letters when they're locked up.
I can't believe there's anybody still in jail over January 6th.
Bro, so let me just make sure I'm capturing this right. So you're just a normal American, seemingly. You seem like a normal guy. You grew up in Texas. You're politically active. And you go down there because the president's calling people down for a rally. You show up. You protest on a registered protest. You walk in the Capitol for 30-something seconds. The guy asks you to leave, and in general, you leave. You get on a megaphone. It's not illegal. You get on a megaphone at a protest. And the next thing you know, you're raided by the FBI. You have no idea how long you're going to jail or what the heck is happening. You're put in jail, you're put in isolation, solitary confinement, and then you get out. Like, when did you know you're getting out?
Well, when I went to court and the judge said I could get out.
Okay. So was that like halfway through or 20 days through about? Or?
No, it was towards the end. And actually, they weren't going to let me go to court unless I got one of those COVID tests shoved up my nose. It's the first and only time that's ever happened to me.
Talking down to you?
Not this judge, no. This was a Texas judge.
So did you have to plead something, or what was he saying? Like, I can let you out if you do this?
Yeah, it's like an arraignment.
Okay.
Yeah, so she wanted me to, well, and there was complications too because I didn't know what was going on with the lawyer. I went all the way into court and then had to go back and then come back to court again. So 2 or maybe even 3 times.
And you were in for 21 days.
Yeah.
So you get out of this jail, and do your parents have to come pick you up or something, or?
Yeah, my parents came to pick me up. They took me to Chick-fil-A first thing.
Yeah. What were you thinking when you came out? Was it a sunny day? What were you thinking?
It was a little sunny. It was still icy out, so it was cold. But I was just happy to be out again. But
you still had your damn flip flops.
February, yeah, and so they brought me some clothes. What I had to do was go home. This guy who didn't want to drive, he wasn't there for that either. So I had to then come back out to Plano and get my ankle monitor thing put on. I was under house arrest for about a year.
A year?
Yeah, and they let me go to church on Sundays, but like, say my car ran out of gas, someone else has to fill it up. I have to go straight to church and straight back. Say people want to stay after for potluck, sorry, can't stay, have to go. I can't stop and chat. I go to the service, I go home. And they wouldn't even let me go out and mow the lawn. Like, maybe I could take the trash out and that's it.
This is crazy.
I mean, so they assumed you were some type of flight risk, obviously, if they have an ankle monitor on you.
Well, obviously not, because they took it off afterwards when we requested it. But that was like a year. And what they had me do was they had me take a picture of myself to prove I was actually at church every single time. And they had me fill out a form, tell them the address of the church, the time I'm going to be there. I had to fill that out every week. And
well, what I was going to say on the flight risk is, they obviously thought that. Did you indicate anything that you might try to leave or rebel, or did you you know what I mean? Like, typically, if they're going to let you go, they're not going to.
Well, if I had arranged with the FBI to turn myself in, how is that a flight risk? So no, I don't think they even believed that I was a flight risk. They just like torturing people. So it was awful. And the ankle monitor actually has like a signal that goes to a device they make you put in your house. And they can tell if it is receiving that transmission or not, but they don't have GPS on it. So that's why I had to go take a picture of myself when I leave the house to prove where I actually am.
That sounds...
It's horrible technology, and they made me pay for it.
Of course they did.
In addition to, you know, all the other costs I already have.
I was just thinking, like, what is this? What countries does this sound
I know.
Like, do people not pay taxes? They can't afford to pay for me to have myself monitored when I'm not even volunteering to be monitored. That's something they're requiring of me. It's ridiculous.
I'm not believing this is happening.
And I'm actually one of the mild stories. There's 1,000 of us, and a lot of these people had it a lot worse than me. A lot worse.
Something needs to happen, James.
Like, there was one family where when they had their house raided, the woman was pregnant. She had a miscarriage right afterwards.
Well, they freaking stress her out.
So if you ask me, that FBI counterterrorism task force is actually guilty of murder.
It's a political murder.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Well, people can go to stophate.com. We got a lot of information about January 6th, but one of the things on there is we have an article about the deaths of January 6th, and you can see there's a lot of death, and it's not Trump supporters killing cops like the news wants you to think. It was cops killing Trump supporters.
So, so you were on the ankle monitor for a year,
Yeah.
and then you went to court with the judge back in D.C. or?
So it's like it was all remote because they said because of
Yeah.
COVID. So we like go on a Zoom
the
call.
Zooms. Yeah.
And
this is with Reggie. What was the judge's name? Reggie.
Reggie
So just for the record, public knowledge, Reggie was appointed by
Reagan
Bush, and he is known. There's articles on this, many articles for saying that Trump is like Hitler and his followers are Nazis. So it just happens to be that this is the judge going over this. So that is a fact.
Wow.
So crazy, bro. So as we're trying to wind this down, dude, like, what can we do? What can people do to help you, to help these other people that are in jail? What can people do?
Well, I'm going to say what I said on Tucker Carlson, which is the number one thing that would help us J6ers if Kevin McCarthy would release all the footage for the J6ers. But I'll go into a little bit more detail than I did on there in that, which is he promised he would do it, and he's backtracked on it, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, same thing, and now she's saying it's actually a bad idea because then the FBI will find more people to arrest. Well, the FBI already knows who they're going to arrest, and they're going to do it anyways. The reason this needs to be public and not just for the attorneys is so that it can be crowdsourced and people can find all the exculpatory evidence for 1,000 or 3,000 people. Because I'm lucky that I had my footage shown on Tucker Carlson, and that's now public knowledge. A lot of these people, their video, it's not public knowledge. So how can they find it? A lot of them don't have the ability to find it. So that's number one. But the people can't really do that. Kevin McCarthy has to. So put pressure on him. That's one thing you can do. But the main three things you can do is you can pray, you can write letters to the January 6ers, and you can help us with our fundraisers. So if you go to stophate.com/J6,
we'll put it on the screen.
That's where you can find all the calls to action, and also you can find the documentaries we put out there to find out the truth about January 6th.
And are you guys profiting off of this or making any margin?
The documentaries are free, but I need a lot of money to pay back my legal fees, to pay the fine, restitution fee, and appeal, all this stuff. So I've got a lot of legal
what's the total
fees.
For you about?
Personally, it was $100,000 for the legal fees and $3,000 from the Senate. So put that together, and then a little bit more for whatever else has gone on.
And you raised some already,
so
right?
far, I've raised $25,000.
And then you got a fine, right?
And the government wanted to fine me for that full amount. They copied and pasted the amount from the fundraiser.
Just happens to be.
And they said that's why it was, and they didn't like that I had mentioned this stuff on Tucker Carlson. But the judge knew I didn't, the prosecution knew too, that I didn't have any money. So, because I still haven't even paid the amount that I owe. And so he lowered the fine down to like 10% of what they were asking.
Hopefully they know they're playing with fire. You get on Tucker Carlson, I mean, you're obviously connected. If there's a problem, it's going to be big. It's going to be on their head. So hopefully,
He's currently 180 times more popular than any mainstream media. I don't even know why we call it mainstream media. These guys are the non-mainstream media.
Yeah,
now.
a lot of people call it legacy media now.
Yeah, yeah. But dude, so I have a question. Kind of wrapping this. I mean, when you look back, obviously hindsight's 2020. Do you think this is worth it? And what would make it worth it if it's not?
Is it worth what to do what? Like,
Was it worth it for you?
was it worth for me to what?
for the problems that you've had and the stuff that you've gone through, was it worth the cause?
No, but like, was what worth it?
Maybe let me rephrase the question of where I'm trying to go with it. Let's say you had a little boy, you had a son. Okay, would you tell him or encourage him to go down this path?
Well, what path? Because like, I didn't know there was going to be a psyop. So you can't say, oh, make sure you don't go to the psyop, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can say, look out for psyops, and which we already kind of did have our eyes out. Like, we were thinking maybe there's going to be Antifa agitators there, so I already had my eyes out. If I'm going to see any, I'm going to get that on video. I didn't happen to see any. I've seen it since then, obviously.
So you tell them, watch out for possibly getting set up. What else would you tell people?
Well, specifically, what did I learn from January 6th? Maybe that's a good way to phrase it. What I told the judge is I learned not to enter a federal building through a door that doesn't have metal detectors. That I did not know beforehand. Now I know it's maybe kind of more obvious, like, oh, that's not an official door. So even if cops are standing around letting people do it, maybe you're not supposed to try and find a more official door. Mm-hmm. So that's my main takeaway from January 6th that I would tell everyone. You know, that's a good advice to look for a metal detector. For
Do you think at all
building.
they're trying to scare people who are involved with Trump or
Absolutely.
or what?
Yeah,
what
I would call it
all those guys.
I would call it the chilling of the First Amendment, and I think it's intentional. And I think people should just stand up for freedom of speech, because if we don't stand up for our constitutional rights, we're going to lose them. And when I say constitutional rights, I'm saying these are the rights that the Constitution has enshrined for us. They have made it to where we can have those rights protected, but those rights didn't come from the Constitution, they came from God. The Constitution is just saying, this is the things that we're recognizing.
Yeah.
So if we don't stand up for our God-given rights, they'll be taken away.
Yeah, your constitutional rights pre-existed the Constitution.
That's right.
Yeah. So one question that I have when I just think about this, like, so we met at a Bible study, okay? And so just knowing you in this story, and then like some people kind of knew you when you came in, they knew like some parts of your story. I don't know what they do, but people knew a little bit like that you were involved. Do you think people judge you? How do you feel socially? Do you worry about people knowing who you are? Has anyone, like, how does that whole like social, what's the social ramifications, or how does that all, you feel like that's going down?
Well, first off, I would say the Bible says not to be anxious, so I don't really have that problem. But definitely people judge me. There's a lot of fake news about me. If you Google my name, it says, you know, that I'm some kind of insurrectionist, that I'm some sort of Proud Boy, and then they say Proud Boys are white supremacists. Those are all lies. Proud Boys are just fine. I'm not a Proud Boy, so it's a moot point. You know, no one was charged with insurrection, nor was I. So, yeah, there's definitely repercussions. If I try to go get a job interview right now, how am I going to pass a background check? They're going to Google my name and see that I was involved in January 6th, and they've been told lies that we killed people on January 6th. Well, no, actually, we were the ones being killed.
That's actually true.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a fascinating story.
Do you have anything to say on prison reform now that you've been through all that? And what would you say on that, or do you?
Well, I would say that a lot of January 6ers are very appreciative that Trump has passed the First Step Act, because that's helped them get some time off for some of them, some for good time. So I would say there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And a lot of people that are in there, they're not guilty. So it's the justice system that needs to be reformed the most. But even if you are guilty, say you are guilty, does that mean you should be mistreated in prison? No, you have rights in there. So people need to be treated a lot better than I've seen and heard stories, especially of other January 6ers, that they've been very mistreated. People gotten beaten by guards, you know, not getting the proper dietary restrictions, all kinds of things like that have been happening in these jails.
So if you did something wrong, broke a law, go to jail, from what you've seen about jail, does it help you build you back up and make you a better person on your first day out, so that you're a little bit more equipped to be in the real world back? Or would you say what you've seen, does it mentally break you down? Does it or is it different? Like what is your opinion on that?
Well, you're gonna have to ask me after I come out of prison, because, you know, going in there the first time, it's a little different. And I don't know, maybe there's a difference between jail and prison. Maybe there's a difference between long and short. But there are programs you can do. But I feel like a lot of just basic rights are neglected. Like I asked for a chaplain every day. I never got to see a chaplain. Yeah, I had to beg to get a Bible, and it took days.
In 21
basic
days, you
rights.
never saw a chaplain?
Nope, not once. So a lot of things like that. But I think a lot of the rights that prisoners have, they just don't get to be exercised because the guards don't care. And there's nothing you can do if the guard doesn't care. They'll ignore you. You try to ask them, you try to put in a redress grievance or something, like a grievance form, and maybe it just doesn't make it up the chain.
They treat you like a second-class citizen. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it?
Most likely they're going to retaliate against you if you
Yeah, so something needs to be done to help these people who are in jails and prisons across this country. The number one thing, like I said, people who are not guilty, they need to not be in there. But then number two, even if you are guilty, you need to not be mistreated. You need to have access to all your rights, especially religious.
You keep fighting. We'll support you. We'll put all the plugs we can out there, and we'll even help you too if we can. And,
I'll tell you where I'm at too. Is like, I'm not sure. We don't know each other super well, so I can't just come on the record and say like I support everything that you do or believe. That's not the point, in my opinion. The point is you're not. It doesn't seem like you're doing anything illegal. If you were, and like let's say you walked into the Capitol, they got you on trespassing or being on the grounds or whatever. You do your 21 days, and then you're out, right? Like. But to do the ankle monitor, to do all this other stuff, to defame you, I mean, it's just it seems a little aggressive, right? And the thing that I'm passionate about here is this country was built on people who had edgy thoughts.
That's right.
I mean, George Washington was. I mean. Abraham Lincoln, how dare him go against the populace? How dare him believe in something that a small minority group thinks? What an idiot!
Well,
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so whether it was Martin Luther King, whether it was inventions, whether it was, what an idiot trying to create a light bulb.
Yep.
This country has been everything that it's been because of the edge thinkers. And there is a clear movement right now that it's not about being edgy or not. It's like, these are the thoughts that you have to believe. And if you don't believe in these narratives, and it's not even just believe, like you have to be like all in on these narratives. Like it's a religion, right?
You have to support it.
Yeah, like if you're not, you can get canceled, defamed, arrested, raided. You can be called a terrorist, a racist, whatever. And that in itself is just anti-American.
Yeah, and I've been watching this since before January 6th. Basically, I noticed when Laura Loomer and Alex Jones got banned from every platform around the same time, the free speech in this country was under attack by big tech. And it's only gotten worse since then, to the point where they even banned the president from Twitter. And if we can't share dissident views, then we can't share the gospel. And so I think dissident views, America First Patriots, are very important in this time, need to be supported. And it's not just big tech's censoring. It's also people being debanked, people being put on the no-fly list, and people being canceled, people being shut out in society and from having their voice being able to be heard.
God can use these things for good. And even though they suck at the time, I guarantee you, at the end of this, you're going to be the one that wins.
And I'll say something on the Christian thing too. Look, if somebody's watching and they're a Christian and they're super proper and they never do anything outside the box and they would never rustle any feathers, they would never, and you're watching this, you're just going, wow, this guy, he got what he deserved, Well, let me just tell you, if you don't think that is coming to you, you're wrong, okay? Because number one, they've already silenced most of your beliefs now. Family, morals, values.
Oh,
so
it's
you are the most gaslit. Okay, like if you don't think these restrictions, these intimidations, all these things, because really what they're instituting, we can talk about this on another show, is they're instituting another religion, right? And if you look at the if you look at the end times scriptures, I mean, really what is happening is there is a world religion that is being instituted.
Yeah.
And that is what we are seeing. And if we don't say anything, if we think, oh, well, let's just, come to the Bible study, let's all just, feel good about ourselves, I think at some point you're gonna realize your way, like the time to fight for your freedoms is when you have them.
That's right. You sleep on your rights, you lose them. Dude, thank you. Thank you for coming. I would love to have you again if we can. I think you would be on the other side. I would like to have you again and tell us the rest of your story. And so, because I know this is going to have a happy ending. It's just good. It's going to be a bumpy road between now and then, but you can take it, and you've got a lot of supporters, and we will be praying for you, and we will absolutely support you, man. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
And people can follow me on my social media, Daniel Goodwyn. Goodwyn's with a Y instead of an I.
Yeah, we'll put it all up here on the screen.
Yeah, let's put it all up there.
And SF Thought Criminal.
All right. Cool, man. Thank you.
Bro. Thanks.